close on the heels of the updated E-Class comes this, the updated, well no, this is not the updated 5 Series. This in fact is the facelifted 6 GT, and it shows that BMW are fully committing to their long wheelbase strategy for India, and that's why the new nose first gets applied on the 6 Series GT and later on it will come on the 5 Series. So what's new on this updated 6 GT? That's what we're going to tell you in this video. But before we go ahead, don't forget to subscribe to the Evo India channel and give us a shout out, give us a thumbs up if you enjoy our new format of videos where we will be taking your questions. We start with the first and obvious question. What's new on the 6 GT? So in terms of styling, you get this new updated nose that will also be seen on the 5 Series. So the kidney grills, thankfully, they're not all the way to the ground, but they are slightly bigger. The headlamps, that's the most noticeable difference. And this one is the M Sport version, which gets laser lights. So these are laser lights. You have this BMW laser imprint out there. They are very powerful, and they also have that matrix functionality. So basically that does not blind oncoming traffic. So basically the matrix elements, those get dimmed when something is coming in front of you. So you have the light on all sides of the car except right in the face of the oncoming traffic. You also get reprofiled bumpers, and you have these reprofiled air curtains. This air curtain out here, what it does is lets the air enter through the bumper, and it reduces the turbulence around the front wheels and gives better aerodynamics. The wheels, M Sport versions get 19-inch rims, whereas regular versions get 18s. You can also spec 20-inch rims, which I think will look really cool on the 6 GT. M badging, the extractor for the air vents. In terms of the profile, well, it is unchanged, and this is the long wheelbase version. It is really long. And over on the rear, the tail lamps are in the same housing, but it gets different LED elements, so it looks slightly different. GT badging, you get this deployable spoiler. Above 120 kilometers per hour, it deploys on its own, but if you want to show that you are driving a sporty car, you can also deploy it with the button on the center console. And you have slightly different profile rear bumpers, twin trapezoidal exhausts. This, like I said, is the 630i. It gets the 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine. But before we dive into the driving bits, let's talk about the back seat. Your next bunch of questions are all on the back seat. Now, first thing I have to point out that soft close doors are optional. This version does not have it as standard. In terms of space, 3-meter wheelbase. Look at the amount of space I have here. Now, of course, this front seat is pushed all the way forward, but it is plenty of space. This is how the space is on the right side if I'm driving, if somebody of my height, 5 foot 9 inches, is driving. And it is not as spacious as an E-Class. I have to give it that. Now, what all do you get out here? You get reclining back seat. So the back seat angle, you can adjust it electrically to give you a recline angle that you like. You get panoramic sunroof, get the armrest out here, cup holders. You get 2 USB-C ports, and you get the entertainment package. So it's got a nice big screen out here where you can control the navigation, the connectivity features, all the music. You can connect your phone wirelessly, so your phone can be in your pocket, but it's still connected wirelessly. So you got wireless Apple CarPlay. And Android enthusiast, BMW now offers you wireless Android Auto also. What else? You get a Harman Kardon sound system, 16 speakers, sounds really good. But you cannot adjust the front seat from the back. So the E-Class, it allows you to adjust the front seat, push it all the way forward. But here you'll have to ask the guy in front to adjust it for you. You get electrically adjustable sun blinds out here. And it is a lovely environment. BMW cabins are very, very high quality, and the 6 GT is no different. The seats are also extremely comfortable, and you get soft pillows for your head. Reminds you of the E-Class? Well, that's the intent. Now to start with your questions on the engine, this car that we're testing is the 630i. That means it does not get the 6-cylinder engine, it gets the 4-cylinder. It's a turbocharged petrol engine with a 2-stage turbocharger. It's not a twin turbocharger. It says twin power on the engine, but that means it is a twin scroll turbocharger. It makes 254 bhp of power, 400 newton meters of torque, and 0 to 100 in 6.5 seconds. Is that enough to pull such a big and heavy car? Actually, it is enough. It's not like there's a lot of power. It's not like there's an overabundance of power, but it's quick enough. You go down 2 gears, stick it in sport mode, and it does move. It is quick, though you really do have to extract all that power from it, compared to say the 630D, which has the 6-cylinder 3-liter diesel engine. There the performance is effortless, whereas with this 4-cylinder petrol engine, you really got to step on it and you wait for the power to come to get built up, and then yes, there is power, but you have to work hard to get it. Now, does this updated 6GT drive differently from the outgoing 6GT? In a nutshell, the answer is no. It drives exactly the same. Now, it gets twin axle air suspension, so air suspension on the front as well as the back. You got a button out here so you can raise the suspension when you want it. It goes up by 20 millimeters to clear nasty speed breakers, though as standard the ride height is good enough for all kinds of speed breakers, and at speed you can actually get it lower by 10 millimeters to give it better road holding. As for the dynamics, it's a BMW at the end of the day. Of course, this is a long wheelbase BMW. The wheelbase is just over 3 meters, so it is a big car and there's no getting away from it. But it is nice to drive. Straight up, if you compare it with the E-Class, the E-Class is softer than the 6GT, whereas the 6GT, it is more enthusiastic in its handling. You chuck it around corners and there is more bite, there is more grip, there is more eagerness to turn into corners, and it is the more fun to drive luxury car, if there is such a thing. But if you are looking for driving pleasure from your luxury car, the 6GT will deliver that. I have to add that this is no 5 Series. The 5 Series is more eager, more urgent, more bite, more grip. So if you really want driving performance and driving enthusiasm, stick with the 5 Series. But if you want all that space at the back plus driving pleasure, the 6GT does deliver. Okay, so a lot of you all have asked questions about hybrid, mild hybrid on this engine. Fact is that none of the engines on the 6GT get mild hybrid. You get the 2-liter diesel, you get the 2-liter petrol, and you get the 3-liter diesel, the 630D. None of them get mild hybrid. So it is the same spec as you would find in the other BMWs. So we are now going over a bumpy patch off-road. It's in sport, I should stick it in comfort, and it rides really nicely. It takes it all in its stride, but the E-Class is plusher. The E-Class rides better and it is more comfortable. It seems like a lot of BMW buyers love the M Sport kit, and that's why the 6 Series now will also be available in the M Sport version. Earlier it was only with the luxury line, but like with the 3 Series Grand Limousine, even the long wheelbase 3 Series get an M Sport version, and the 6GT also gets an M Sport. This actually is the M Sport version, and there are slight subtle differences On the M Sport, you also get 19-inch rims as standard, and you can option it all the way up to 20s. Now, usually when you go up to 20s, the ride quality becomes horrible. But even in the 19s, the ride on the 6GT is actually good. So the 20s, for the visual appeal, will actually be quite good. I don't think the ride will be too bad. But to look at, the 6GT on 20s would be smashing. Power delivery on the 4-cylinder turbo petrol. Now, as with all turbos, 400 Newton meters of torque comes really low. So it's not like you really have to work the engine when you're really cruising. So we're going up these nice twisty roads, and it's easy to get all that power. It's only when you really want to accelerate hard, that's when you need to put your foot down, wait for the engine to rev all the way up. So above 4 or 5, that's where the engine really starts to work hard, and it revs almost till 6.5. So it revs also really well. So the power delivery is smooth. It's really lovely, like all modern turbo petrol engines. But there is no replacement for displacement, and a bigger engine would make performance more effortless. Like the 630D, that would be my pick. Obviously the 630D will be expensive. The 630i is more affordable, and this is what will go up against the E200, the petrol. But the 630D would be sweet. So it revs all the way up almost till 7,000 RPM. So you get low down grunt, plus you get top end performance on this engine. Will it drift? Now, 254 bhp of power should be good enough to make any car drift. But this car with the 19-inch rims has got massive tires. 245 section up front, 275s at the rear. Those are really wide tires. So unless you get loose gravel on the road, it's very hard to get the rear unstuck. Really extremely difficult. So does the 630i drift? No, it actually does not drift. These rims, these tires, they are too much for the engine power. In fact, this car is a bit overtired. Now, when you think about it, we always criticize cars when they come with small rims and a large gap in the wheel arch. But here, these tires are way too sticky for 254 bhp to get it to wag its tail. Well, there's a lot of difference between the 5 Series and the 6GT. It starts with the wheelbase. The wheelbase of the 6GT is longer than the 5 Series. Now, this is the same 5 Series platform, but this is the longer wheelbase 5 Series. So you get more space at the back. That's one. And the second is the rear styling. So this has the notchback, which delivers a massive boot. It also delivers that coupe-like roofline at the rear and frameless doors. So actually the differences between the 6GT and the 5 Series are not insignificant. It's not like the 3 Series Grand Limousine, which is simply a longer wheelbase 3 Series. Here, the bodywork, especially at the rear, is also significantly different from the 5 Series. So what's new on the inside? The actually only noticeable difference is the virtual cockpit. So earlier there were digital dials but analog needles. Now you get the full digital cockpit, which is what you find on every single BMW actually, where the tacho swings anti-clockwise, which, like I've said a million times, I don't really like too much, but that's it. So that's the virtual cockpit. You get 12.3 inches, that's your virtual cockpit size, and also 12.3 inches, that's your infotainment size. The infotainment, you get everything. Wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. So BMW no longer hates people who use Android phones. You get all sorts of connectivity features. You get that Hey BMW, where you can give it voice commands. You get the panoramic sunroof. You get these Dakota leather seats, which are comfortable and sporty. What you don't get are seat coolers. So no seat coolers either at the front or at the back. You don't get seat massagers either. The E-Class also doesn't get seat massagers, but they get that seat kinetics, which uses the lumbar to push your back around a bit. But well, that's it. You get the M Sport steering wheel with the M Sport kit, paddle shifters behind the steering wheel. So unlike the E-Class, where you can also control the passenger seat with the controls on your side, on the driver's side, You don't get that on the E-Class, but otherwise you get everything really. There's everything that you'd want. There's a lot of parking functionality. So you get the key where you can actually move the car front and back. It remembers the last parking spot that you reversed into, so it will come out on its own if you wanted to, if it's difficult to get into the car. So that's also cool. But most of these cars are used by chauffeurs, they're driven by chauffeurs, so I don't think you really need all those parking functionalities. What about the rear spoiler? Well, it is there. You get this button out here, so you can deploy it if you want while you're at slow speeds, and above 120 kilometers per hour it deploys on its own. So does it have launch control? Let's find out. So gearbox in manual, sport, ESP off, gas. Oh, it doesn't have launch control, but it does accelerate hard. So last question before we go into the most pressing question that you've asked, and how does the 6GT compare with the E-Class? Can this be a daily car? Of course, that's the whole point of the 6GT, that you have the space at the back to stretch out, you have driving pleasure when you want to take the wheel, you have comfort, you have sportiness. So when you stick it in comfort, it really rides well. When you stick it into sport mode, it does deliver driving pleasure. There is a lot of features on the car. Harman Kardon infotainment system with 12 speakers, which sounds really good. So of course this can be your daily driver. That's the whole point of it. If you are in the market for a luxury car priced around 65-70 lakh rupees ex-showroom, this can be your daily driver. This should be your daily driver. This is meant to be your daily driver, and it works really well as a daily driver. So final set of questions on pricing and how does the 6GT compare against the E-Class. Now the outgoing 6GT was priced at 65 lakh rupees, and I expect this should be priced around there. The 630i, it goes up against the E200, and the E200 is around 63 lakh rupees. So 65 for this should be okay, considering that the 630i also gets more equipment, including air suspension. And honestly, the 6GT cannot be more pricey than the E-Class, because the E-Class, it rules like an absolute king in its segment. And if the 6GT has to make a dent there, it has to be price competitive. Second question, how does the 6GT compare against the E-Class? Honestly, in terms of outright luxury, if you just want to lounge at the back, the E-Class, it still has the edge. But the 6GT is more fun to drive. Though that said, if you want a fun to drive car in this segment, wouldn't you look at the 5 Series? So there you have it, the 6GT. It's launched. Deliveries are going to start now. Bookings are open. And if you like this new format of our first drive reviews where we answer your questions, give us a thumbs up, drop your comments below, and let us know what you think. Subscribe to the Evo India channel and hit the bell icon to keep pace with the thrill of driving.